I work with a lot of companies who want help getting in the door, right? I get asked this all the time. How do I start and build relationships? But in particular, like, how do I get in the door? Federal agency doors, large prime doors, or even other small businesses. And the idea is people think that networking is the answer. And usually they're thinking networking in person. And that's the right thinking. That's fine. Networking is definitely the way to get in the door. But networking doesn't have to be in person. Networking can be virtual, which is the whole point of today's training, right? And I was looking at a lot of LinkedIn pictures recently that people share. There's these events, and like the last one I just did, I think 2 weeks ago, I did a whole training on how to have success at this event called Vets 2. But lately I've noticed a lot of people will go to events and take pictures. And I noticed two things about it. More often than not, the pictures from different events always have the same people in there taking the selfies, right? So it's as if they go there and they see their friends, and that's what it is. The other thing I noticed when there's bigger pictures of a wider angle of a room or a big room, right, is I see all these people kind of standing around. And even for me, a person who loves talking with people, extrovert, etc., when you're in an environment like that, it's a whole nother level of confidence to walk up to a couple of people, a few people talking and say, and basically you feel like you're invading the space, but it is a networking event. And so when you really think about how networking happens in person, there's a lot more anxiety and a lot more standoffishness. I literally watch people sitting in a conference event or a vendor outreach event where the idea is also to network, and they will sit and not talk to anybody around them. And that's a whole nother training I'll do about how do you do that when you're in person. But the cool thing is it doesn't have to be just in person. You can network virtually. So virtual networking enables you to contact the right people, to determine the right people you want to contact, and then contact those people when you want. I used to call it an on-demand matchmaking session. Why go to the government's hosted matchmaking session and scratch off the lottery ticket of who's on the other side of the table to see if you're going to meet somebody that's useful, compared to saying, hey, I want to meet Dave Waltz and other Naval Warfare Center small business specialists. And so you reach out to Dave and say, hey, next week, are you available? And you try to coordinate 8 or 10 of these people on the same day in 30-minute increments with a 15-minute block in between. And you can have your own matchmaking session exactly where you want to go. And so these kind of things you can do in virtuals, be very hyper-focused compared to the whole idea of a grab bag at an in-person networking event. And I was going to talk, I want to watch my time because I got a lot to share with you, but I want to use one quick story that I have. It relates to these 2 different people who have been talking to me in the last 3 weeks. And they were asking for my help very specifically about getting into the door in the federal space, whether it's civilian or defense agencies, to the people responsible for innovative dollars. And one of the things I realized is neither one of these people were overly familiar with who those people are. And I'll talk about that more in the training. But they also weren't familiar with events. One was going to a CIBR or an innovation event here in DC. It was, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I think it is. And they're going, but they really didn't know anybody. They were hoping to just meet people. Well, in just a couple of minutes, I was able to give them names and then make introductions for them. And the thing I want you to keep in mind is I just happened to be somebody who knew them, but everybody knows somebody. Even if you look in the chat, if you look at somebody's network, you'll be able to expand out of their network to other people that you want to get to. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I was able to help them because they knew me. I was in their network or they were in my network. They were able to piggyback off into somebody else. And I really want to talk to you about that because your network speeds up your success factor, whether you're in the industry and you're trying to reach government or make more sales, or whether you're like some federal buyers looking for qualified small business firms that do this, or a large business. 2 weeks ago, I just had a large business, multi-billion dollars, reach out asking for, hey, I'm looking for small businesses. In this case, it was microelectronics, which is really fun because there's not a ton of us or a ton of them. But your network enables all that to happen, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, let me share my screen really quick and we'll keep going. Okay, so virtual networking is going to help you, just hiding this, save money, right? It's going to save you money from having to physically go anywhere. Even when I was in DC, going to a DC event, it basically is a half-day event at least with DC travel and all this other stuff. And so, and then the other thing, like I said, it's a hit or miss. The way I'm going to cover today's training is to talk about first, what is networking? Just make sure we're level setting on what networking is. And then where does networking typically happen and where could it happen? So that I want to give you different ways of thinking about that. I'm not opposed to physical or in-person, right, networking events. I'm just saying virtual networking is way, way better, like 1,000 times better, more success because it's immediate. I can do that today and not wait for a planned in-person event. And then the last one is how to network virtually. I want to give you exact steps that I follow and ones that you can take today to start growing your network by 25, 50, or 100 people a week. And you're in your network. When I say growing it, it doesn't mean you're going to be best friends. You're just growing your network, which can literally be tens of thousands of people. So that's what we're going to cover down on in today's training. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏 McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. One of the tips could be how to use my Restream. Hold on one second. So let me stop sharing for 1 second because I'm seeing a hiccup. Or stop sharing, and then come over here, put myself back where I think I belong. I'm just talking to myself as I go forward. Okay, hopefully this will be better. So we'll find out in 2 seconds when I see it on my phone. What did I say? Welcome to Federal Sales Training. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. So I've been there, I've done this, and I've done the lonely journey, and I've had the successes and the failures that come forward and really help me be able to teach the process to you. And I teach this all the time. Since 2018, I've been saying government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When you follow a process A to Z, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. Make sure you get out there and subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It's a great newsletter for you to stay informed about the federal market. And also, over 100 people registered for today's training. Thank you. First off, I really appreciate that. Second, when you register, which I'll show you today, you really increase your ability to network. And then LinkedIn pushes the word out to others to grow this community of yours and ours, right? It's our community. It's not my community. All right, let's talk about what is networking. And I'm going to go fairly fast because I want to save time to show you ways I go find people and perhaps network with them. But the first thing to keep in mind about networking is it's not selling, it's relationship building. So when you think about reaching out to somebody and you just start vomiting everything about your company, it's like, we call it a word vomit. You just feature, telling them everything about you and all these things. Well, that's not a network. A network is literally this community is a network. We come together, we see each other and chat, we talk, maybe we go offline, but we're not trying to sell, right? If you're trying to sell the minute you introduce yourself to somebody, if you're trying to say all the things we do, you're not stopping for a second and trying to get to know other people. The key to building relationships and the key to successful networking is to actually ask questions, right? To try to get to know the other person. And if you've got a good networking partner, they're doing the same. They're sharing a little bit about their company, and then they're asking you about yours. Another way to think about it, and I was looking for my my book. I don't know if I don't have this one, but 𝗪𝗏𝗥𝗏𝗧, he wrote a book called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And I hope that makes sense, right? Dig your well for water before you're thirsty. And networking is the same thing. Don't go networking or think you're building relationships when you need something right away. Separate that out of your mind. There's nothing wrong with needing something right away and chasing it down. But networking and relationship building, and networking is just the beginning of relationship building, that happens before you're thirsty. Before you ever need it, you're building these relationships out there. The third bullet I have here, what is networking? Your network is everybody you know. And when I say know, I mean very loosely. So for example, I know 30,000 people who are in my LinkedIn world. I don't know them well, and I probably don't even know 1,000 of them by name, right? And even that's kind of reaching it. But almost all of those people are in the federal market space. I've been using LinkedIn, I think, since 2007. And so those connections, now they're a lot more agency and small business focused and sales. Before, it was related to my government contracting businesses, but still in the federal market. So all those people are my network. I'm not saying they're all my friends. I'm not saying they're all strategic partners. Your network is everybody you know at your church, everybody you know in your neighborhood kind of thing, and who they know. So an example is If I have 30,000 connections, let's say it's only 1,000 connections, but each one of them has 100 people. Then you multiply those 100. There's special math that could go into this, but basically you multiply 1,000 times 100, and now that's my broader network. LinkedIn used to tell this to us about how big your network is. But if you want to understand how big your network is, just go into LinkedIn and go to the search bar and hit enter with no text, and then say, show me people, second connections. And it'll come back and say, millions of people. And that's because your connections, your first connections, know all these other people. And that's your network. And I'll show you how to use that. The last thing about the network is your network allows you to get information and to get introductions, right? And you should be giving those to the people in your network as well. But getting information, and sharing introductions to others is the value of a network. The one thing I want you to think about, right, is determine your ideal network. You don't want to just network with everybody out there. I have a very niched down network. For example, right now, I have a particular network that I want to do to help some customers of mine. I have these two particular people in my world who are asking for my help. One is a startup that does like drone technology around gases and protecting military bases, things like that. One does that, and they're trying to get in for the innovation dollars within the federal market. And one is a venture capitalist, a VC, who's trying to support companies who are trying to get in. And so she's got a much bigger portfolio of companies, but they're both trying to get to the same place. And so I want to increase my network of these people and be able to hand it back to them and say, hey, here you go, here's some introductions. And that's literally what I did this past few days, where I made introductions to specific people in the innovation world. But it was easier for me to network, to find those people and to see who I knew, who knew people, right? And because I said, all right, federal innovation, that's the network I want to grow at the moment, right? I can grow it in different areas at different times. And so here's what I want you to think about. What's your ideal network? If you're trying to grow a network, what is it? Where are you trying to grow it with Army folks? I know David Waltz, for example, is in here from the Navy. He's not trying to grow agency networks. He's trying to probably grow small business network, finding small businesses who can support his internal customers. So he has a different network, ideal network than you do. What is yours for today? Not long-term, but if you think about networking for the next few days, who would you want to, what type or role or agency would you want to grow in there? So I think a lot of these places that I put here about where does network happening should make sense. But as you're putting that into the chat on what's your ideal network, I just want you to understand all the different places you can network. So the federal government, federal agencies do vendor outreach sessions. Sometimes they're in person. Luckily now, sometimes they're also virtual, which is awesome. And it's a great chance for you to get into the network, especially if they're using Microsoft Teams. You can go into Teams. I can't show you at the moment, but you can go into Teams and say, show me everybody who's here. And you just scroll to the bottom and then say next page, and you can see all these people. There might be people who are hidden because they're dialing in and you just see their phone number. But if you see people, then you can go follow them up and say, hey, we were both at the same event. And you don't have to connect with all of them. You look in and go, oh, I'd like to connect with those people. If I had happened to be standing next to them and we had introduced ourselves, then we would have traded cards and said, let's follow up. Right. And so virtually, you can do that even with those vendor outreach sessions. So there's conferences like the CIBR one I mentioned today. There's industry days. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Happy hours and mixers. I see this happen a lot. This is a challenge. For the most part, it doesn't happen virtually. But when you get in here, the biggest thing for you to remember is you need to be walking around, constantly trying to move somewhere else to the next group of people and just hi. And then training events. I'm going to show you how to do this, but I train every single day, and I bring thousands of government contracting, the government contracting space. So large businesses, small businesses, and agencies, and those people who support them. I bring them into these training events. And so you have these opportunities when you attend a training event to network with people. You can do it right now as you're chatting. Hey, Sarah, I see that you're down in Joint Base San Antonio. So am I. Or I'm trying to get down there. Let's connect offline and see if it makes sense to talk. And then the last thing, again, kind of going with what we're doing, is social media and LinkedIn. There's a lot of social media platforms out there. The only one that matters is LinkedIn. That's where networking happens for federal market professionals, really for any professionals, but in particular, federal market professionals. This is where we live. This is where the federal buyers really engage. Okay, so that was what is networking? where does it happen? And let's talk about, let's talk about how to do it. But before that, let me share exciting news. If you haven't heard this, we're launching a web-based solution for small businesses in the federal market to address their top challenges. Those challenges being getting in the door to meet with federal buyers, think networking, right? Finding teammates who want to work with you, and then identifying, pursuing, and responding to opportunities you can win. Our solution is going to address that. I'm really excited about this because for 7 years, we've been training all the time, but haven't provided the tool. Now we'll do that. So if you're interested in hearing about it, just go into GovCon.com and join the waitlist, GovCon.com, join the waitlist. If you're already in there, just put GovCon Rocks into the chat. Let me know you're in there. Okay, so I'm watching my time. I'm going to show you stuff, and I'm going to go through this really fast. But the first thing I just wanted to say, and it's funny, if you like networking and virtual networking, I put this in red because I wanted you to also just tell me virtual networking rocks. Just put virtual rocks into the chat. But I wanted to just tell you how powerful virtual relationships and networking are. Sometimes people will think that you have to meet in person. There's 3 people I want to mention, 3 friends of mine. So Gus is a friend of mine, but he's also my partner and colleague in the GovCon chamber, and now GovCon in the box as we move forward. And he and I started working together in 2021. Last year, towards the end of 2023, more than 2 years after we had met and then come together and as business partners, we met for the first time 2 years after we'd already started the company, et cetera. And we met for the first time down in Morehouse College when I was doing a talk down there. Tim, he's in our network as well. And he and I have known each other since 2019. Tim and I are friends. I mentor him. He mentors me. We talk about some personal growth things sometimes. We're friends and we're professional colleagues. I have never met Tim. 2019, he and I have been together. I swear it's like I'm closer to him than people I go sailing with or something. And then the last guy is Matt. Matt's used to be in the Navy. Now he's somewhere else. He and I met and started becoming professional colleagues, if you will, or peer, or well, I guess colleagues, right? And then professional friends, and then personal friends. And now he's off doing this next initiative, innovative related, ironically. But he and I have never met since 2018, but we're friends. And anytime we need anything, we pop on the phone, we jump on a Teams meeting, and we're talking. Would I love to meet these guys? Absolutely. Do I need to? No. I mean, I had my last company with the Department of Veterans Affairs as my biggest customer, pouring in millions of dollars every year in the VA. And 90% of the people I worked with, especially the senior people, I never even met them in person. And back then, we didn't even have video. It was all phones. So you can build relationships when you network correctly. You give and you listen. Okay, the other thing about how to network virtually is just make sure you're sharing information of value. I share out information to you that you appreciate, and we start networking. Even if we haven't talked yet, you value what I'm sharing, and you appreciate that. You can do the same thing with the people you're trying to grow your network with. Frankly, you can do that with people who are just in your network and you're less interested in building a partnership with. But if they're in your network and you can help, all's fun. And the last tip about this is give. It's just always be giving. And I don't mean overly give. Don't give in the way that you're being seen to give, but just think about it. It's like, oh, I know this person's interested in innovation. I just met this person. I can ask this person, do you mind if I make an intro? No, absolutely. And I can make the intro. I can get out of the way, and these people are happy. So you can keep doing that. All right. So I wanted to show you 2 things. How to network virtually, or how to go find and get started with people in LinkedIn, and then in an industry day. And I'm going to try to do that in 8 minutes. So the networking here today, by this, first off, I mean the chat. I keep telling you, engage in the chat, say hi to people. Don't introduce your whole company's bio, right? Introduce you. People network with each other, with people. People buy from people. They don't buy from companies. And so in the chat, anytime you're in any chat, just engage in a kind of a personal, professional way, as well as, hey, we do this, this, and this. And then registration. So let me pop over and show you what I mean by registration. So we're in this event right now, the how government contractors, blah, blah, blah. And so what I want you to see is if you registered for the training, then you can come in here after you register. You're able to come in here and click on that attendee list. Anybody who registers for my training is able to see the attendees. I don't do events outside of LinkedIn because I want you to be able to network with the people who are here. I'm not trying to build my email list. I'm trying to build our community. And so you can come in here, like here, here's Burge. I don't know. We're not connected, right? And so I can decide to connect with them. And it's not that hard. Really, I just reach out. I add a note. It's like, great to have you join the training today. Let's connect. This is one of my favorite ones. Let's connect if you're open to it. Neil. Actually, one thing I say is, just as long as I'm teaching my tricks or my style, let's connect here on LinkedIn, comma, if you're open to it. The reason I say here on LinkedIn is because I've had people say, sure, let's go offline. Like, wait, I'm not trying to have a meeting. I'm just saying at the moment, let's connect and be able to see each other's content, etc. So you could put something like, hey, sorry I missed you at the training. Love to connect if you're open to it, right? It doesn't even mean let's have a meeting. You don't need to rush to have meetings with people initially when you're building your network. But here, let me just hit send because I do want to connect with everybody who's in my training. But what I want to point out is when you come in, and let me back up a little bit. When you come in, it's going to start the training probably too. Hopefully the sound doesn't go. But when you come in, you got 105 people that you could possibly add to your network. So that's what I mean by engaging on that. Let me go ahead and close that because we're tight on time. The second thing I wanted to tell you about is the federal government has industry days, and these are a great way to find and grow your network in your ideal network criteria. So if you're trying to build your network in NASA, or you're trying to build your network around test facility operations, whatever that is, right? I'm not really familiar with that. Or, or if you say to yourself, you know what, I want to build, relationships with 8A companies that might be in here. Or I'm in the research and development, blah, blah, blah space. Or I'm in Cleveland, whatever it is, right? You see these different words I'm using. If you want to build your network around that space, then one of the ways you're able to do that is to come into these industry days. And SAM's a great place to find this on sam.gov. You'll come in, you'll see the industry day. And after the industry day, they'll come in and put some slides, and then they'll put in, some slides and then POCs for people who are interested. Sometimes it's long. It's like 10, 20 pages or something. And this one's a little smaller. So here I come in and I can see, I want to grow my network in NASA or in this area, this type of business. Well, the first place I'm going to go are these slides, because growing your network is first becoming aware of who's out there that you could reach out to and to begin to engage and decide. So actually, let me back up for 1 second. If I page down, I'm going to go fast until I show you. Come on here. So if we start coming down, I'm able to start seeing people. And if I wanted to network tighter with somebody in this space or related to this opportunity, et cetera, like right here's a really good one. This guy here, Tony, is the chief of the testing division. And holy smokes, that's the type of people I want to network with and grow it, right? I don't want to just go in and say, Tony, you got opportunities I can do? I'm out of here, thanks, right? I want to go in and say, Tony, I'm interested in doing business with NASA for the next 10 years. So I'd like to just get to know you. I'd like to get to know the testing division. How do you engage? What documents do you read to learn about what industry is trying to share? That's all networking, right? And so here, I at least have his name, and then I can follow up later and begin to get contact information. But if you come down through these presentations, I'm going to go a little faster. I start getting more and more information. Like, so here's other people's information. Next slide I slide into. Here's Rita Dickens, a contracting officer related to this type of spend, right? So this is huge. I can pull all this information out of the industry day slides. And for the most part, the government tries to share this back out to industry, even if you missed it. So I would follow up and say, hey, sorry I missed you at the event. I'd love to just connect and stay in your field of vision or whatever you want to say. The other part that was in that SAM notice is this document. And this is the document of points of contact of interested people. Sometimes it's just a spreadsheet, but for the most part, what you're looking at is a company, a person, an email, and a phone number. How cool is that? And really, personally, I would maybe try to find them on LinkedIn rather than email to start and say, hey, Michael, sorry I missed you on, or I noticed you were at the, whatever this acronym is, TFOAM or something. Sorry I missed you at that event. I would love to just connect and stay in touch and see if there's ways we can help each other in the future, right? I have a whole other way of how do you write it correctly. But my point is, all I did was go into SAM. And if I had my other tab open, you would have seen that I had like I don't know, 50 or 75 industry days type events like this one that are in SAM that were updated in the last week. So if you want to grow your network and you know where you want to grow it at, then you're able to come in here and start finding that information. So that's really good information to grow your network. Okay, let me leave you with 3 steps I want you to remember to try to encourage you to go out there and do virtual networking. Actually, if I start with 1, make sure you connect with me. If you're out on YouTube, especially, come over to LinkedIn and connect with me. You'll begin to get exposed to my network, and I have 30,000 followers. Those people begin to become your network, right? And you're able to swim in that whole world, so you can grow your network. So the first thing I want you to remember is determine the network you want, that criteria for where you want to grow. For me, remember, it was innovation. The second thing is find out where they're at. And so I just looked at SAM and I showed you there. I also looked at LinkedIn at my training. If I'm doing innovation, then I'm going to go to the 𝗪𝗓 conference event and look at on their website and look at all the speakers and other people and go, hey, there's a bunch of innovation people. So now I'm seeing where they're at, and then start engaging slowly, like I mentioned a minute ago. All right, so a couple of quick things. Remember to register for the next training. We got more training the rest of this week. Subscribe to the newsletter. I'd love to have you in there and spreading the word and us being able to share good stuff with you. Go to GovCon in a box if you want to join the wait list to hear about our new solution as we drop it. Probably July 1st is when we're releasing it. And then if you're looking for help growing your company and you're an 8A firm doing 2 million plus, I've got end of the year activity in mind that I want to help with. So I'd love to find a few companies to support there. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I am out of here.